The alarm chimed precisely at 600 hours, as it did every morning aboard the Galactic Unity Academy station. Sergeant Mira Dalen rolled out of her bunk with practiced efficiency, her boots hitting the cold metal floor before her eyes had fully opened. Another day of managing the impossible, teaching discipline to the galaxy's youngest predator species. The Academy had seemed like a good assignment 6 months ago. Low combat risk, they said. Plenty of shore leave, they said. What they hadn't mentioned was that predator youth integration meant babysitting cubs who could chew through reinforced steel when teething. Mira grabbed her backpack, military grade, covered in scratches and bite marks that told their own story, and headed toward the mess hall. The corridors were still dim, lit only by emergency strips that cast everything in pale blue. She preferred these quiet hours before the chaos began. The morning briefing was mercifully short. Commander Thexlar, a towering Zenthari with scales that reflected the overhead lights like polished armor, ran through the day's schedule with his usual efficiency. Roll call for the Cubs would begin at 0700, followed by basic tactics training, then afternoon enrichment activities. Any issues to report? Thexlar's voice rumbled like distant thunder. Negative, sir, Mira replied, though her mind flickered to yesterday's incident involving 3 Cubs, a ventilation shaft, and what remained of the station's protein reserves. At 0655, Mira arrived at Training Base 7. The space was enormous, designed to accommodate species of varying sizes and environmental needs. One section featured climbing structures that reached 30 feet high. Another had water features for aquatic juveniles, and in the far corner, behind reinforced transparent barriers, was the Predator unit's den. She approached the control panel and initiated the morning sequence. Lights gradually brightened to simulate natural sunrise. Temperature adjusted to optimal levels. The scent dispersers activated, releasing pheromones that signaled safety and routine. Roll call. Mira's voice carried authority without harshness. Sound off. Hrax present. A deep growl from the shadows. Sella present. A chirping trill. Nixon Knox present. Twin hisses in perfect unison. One by one, 23 Cubs confirmed their presence. Mira checked them off on her datapad, her finger moving down the list with mechanical precision. Tor? Silence. Viri? Still nothing. Kesh? The absence hung in the air like a held breath. Mira's jaw tightened. Of course it was those 3. It was always those 3. The littermates had arrived 2 months ago from Keswick Prime, a planet where pack hunting was encoded into every strand of their DNA. They were covered in rust-colored fur with distinctive black markings around their eyes that made them look perpetually mischievous, which, Mira had learned, was entirely accurate. They weren't malicious. That was the problem. They were helpful, enthusiastically, catastrophically helpful. Computer locate Cubs designated Tor, Viri, and Kesh. Unable to comply. Subjects are in a sensor-masked area. Perfect. Just perfect. Mira glanced at her station. Her backpack was gone. Understanding crashed over her like cold water. Oh no. She'd made one critical mistake this morning. One tiny deviation from routine. She'd set her backpack down outside the den while activating the morning sequence instead of keeping it with her. The Cubs had been watching, learning, waiting, and now they had her gear. Mira activated her comm. This is Sergeant Dalen. We have a code yellow. 3 Cubs are mobile in the station with unsecured equipment. Commander Thexlar's response was immediate. What kind of equipment? My backpack, sir. Contains ration bars, a portable medical kit, 3 training manuals, and... She closed her eyes. My command override keycard. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Find them. Sergeant. Mira was already moving. She knew the Cubs better than anyone. Tor was the largest, with a strategic mind that would make him a formidable hunter someday. Viri was the fastest, capable of bursts of speed that blurred the eye. And Kesh was the clever one, able to manipulate simple mechanisms with her dexterous paws. Together, they were a problem that walked on 4 legs. Mira jogged through the corridors, her trained eyes scanning for clues. There, a scuff mark on the wall at exactly Cub height. And there, a tuft of rust-colored fur caught on a doorframe. She was on their trail. The tracks led her toward the station's central hub, an area normally restricted to senior staff. Mira's stomach sank. If they'd used her keycard to access secure areas, there would be investigations, reports, possibly even her reassignment. But beneath the professional concern was something else. a small traitorous warmth in her chest. They'd taken her backpack because in their pack-oriented minds, carrying the leader's burdens was an honor, a duty. They weren't stealing, they were helping. She rounded a corner and stopped dead. There, in the middle of corridor C7, were all three cubs. Tor had the backpack's top strap in his jaws. Viri gripped one side and Kesh held the other. They were moving in perfect synchronization, a textbook example of cooperative carrying behavior. They weren't running away, they were bringing it to her. Sergeant Mira, Tor's mental voice projected clearly, pride radiating from every syllable. We help carry heavy things. Like Pack does. Viri's tail wagged so hard her entire back end swayed. You left important gear. We protect. Kesh dropped her portion of the backpack long enough to add, Good cubs help. You said good cubs help pack members. Mira stood frozen, torn between laughter and exasperation. Behind her, she heard the heavy footfalls of Commander Thexlar approaching with a security team. She held up one hand, stopping them. Then she knelt down to cub level. You three missed roll call. 3 pairs of luminous eyes widened with dismay, but we were helping, Tor whimpered. Mira reached out slowly, letting them scent her hand before she touched each fuzzy head in turn. I know you were, and that's very honorable, but the pack needs to know where everyone is. That's why we have roll call. Understand? 3 heads nodded solemnly. Good. Now let's get back to the den, and tomorrow. She hefted her backpack, considering. Tomorrow, if you want to help carry equipment, you ask permission first.
Deal, deal!
3 voices chorused. As Mira led the cubs back to Training Bay 7, Commander Thexlar fell into step beside her. That's why you're the best predator handler we have, Sergeant. He said quietly, You understand what they need. Mira watched the 3 cubs bound ahead, already chattering about their next helpful mission. They're not so different from us, sir. They just want to belong, to have a purpose, she smiled, even if that purpose is occasionally grand theft backpack. Roll call resumed at 0723 hours. This time, everyone was accounted for. And the next morning, when Mira arrived at the den, she brought 3 small packs sized perfectly for cubs who insisted on carrying their weight.